Oh! Okay, well, there you go. What's up, pagan people? Drew here. This is a video that I've actually had in the works for weeks. At least 3, probably closer to 4. A friend of mine encouraged me to do this video, and I decided I would. I went ahead and decided I would do the video before the topic of community became a sort of trending thing in the community. And I think that it's synchronistic, obviously, but I think that there's something in the energy right now, seriously, because, for example, last week, as many of you will know, I'm part of the collab channel SOS, Starting Out Solitary, and last week was week 221, and the topic was community, and those topics are set, like that could have been set a year ago. That's how that topic was going to fall for week 221 months and months and months ago, maybe even longer. We have topics all the way through probably next year. Like they're just set up, numbered for whatever week they're going to fall into. And it just so happens that last week was the one that finding community was the topic for the video. So to me, there's definitely something happening on an energetic level. So before I get into what my video is going to be all about, because it all ties together, I'm going to touch on the sort of topic that's been going on in the community about community as of late. So I know that several people have sort of talked about cliques. And to me, I think it's impossible to have a large group of human beings in a situation. So whether that's school, whether that's work, whether that's spirituality, and not have what we refer to as cliques form, because certain people resonate. They have things in common. They're just drawn to each other for one reason or another. And actually, on a spiritual level, we are, of course, going to be drawn to people that either are going to be of assistance to us or that we are going to be assistance to, probably both, on our spiritual path and in our lives. So on that level, being drawn to specific individuals it's actually a really beautiful thing. And it's not anything that is intended to be exclusionary. Is that a word? Whatever. I used it. It's a word now. In and of itself, having a clique is not anything negative or hurtful or ugly toward anyone else. Now, of course, if you wish to be part of a clique you see and you're not, you may feel hurt by that. But unless this group is going out of their way to be nasty and exclusive and treat you badly, I don't know. I just think we have to kind of accept that we're not going to be part of every group. And honestly, if I am not part of a group, if I'm not like, if I don't belong, okay, I'm going to name drop. I adore Lady Grave Dancer. I love her to pieces. I am not part of her clique, and I don't feel badly about that. I don't care. Like, yeah, to me, she's a cool kid, and like her friends are cool kids, and that's great. But obviously, that's not my place. I don't fit there. It's not going to benefit me. It's not the space I need to be in, at least on this part of my journey, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I do not have a victim mentality. I don't feel like, oh, poor me, when things go wrong. I mean, of course I do for a second. I have a pity party for a second, but then I realize everything isn't about me. So like, it's fine that they have their group and I'm not part of it. It's okay. I myself am part of what I could call a clique here in the YouTube community, the witchy pagan YouTube community. There are definitely people who I click with, and a lot of them click with each other. And I have friends here on YouTube that I've met through our channels that I talk to every day. I have friends on here that I talk to several times a month, and then any varying degree, like, at least every couple months, a few months, check in, like, hey, how you doing? I don't think that that's a bad thing. I can't remember what video I watched because there's been several now, but there was this idea that there should be a fair playing field in a way. And I don't even know if that's what they intended. They did not specifically say everybody should be the same, everybody should be treated the same. That's not what they said, but what they said sparked the thought in me that it's impossible. It's impossible. How many witches and pagans create content and put it on YouTube? And then that's a huge group in itself. Okay, so then let's take all the people who don't actually create content, but they watch the videos, they comment, they're part of different Facebook groups or, you know, whatever, and they are actually a rich, important part of the community as well. How many people is that going to be? It's a huge number of people. Let's just focus on the YouTubers, okay? People who actually create content. That is a large, and I am subscribed. I have two different channels. I have my channel. I have one YouTube channel, but accounts. I have two different accounts. My account under my regular name that I had before I ever started a YouTube channel, where I'm subscribed to things like Crime Watch Daily, okay? And then I have She Who Walks account, and I'm only subscribed to pagans and witches or people who are spiritually inclined in some way. I'm subscribed to well over 300 people. And I'm always seeking out new people. And there's tons of people who I've looked at their channels, looked at their content, and just not jived with it and not subscribed. How many pagans are on YouTube? How could I ever have a real life, much less a family and a job if I had one outside the house, and give each and every one of them the same amount of care and attention? There are some people that I'm subscribed to that I rarely watch their videos. I want to support them. I really like them, but a lot of their content doesn't jive with me. For example, I am subscribed to a lot of people in the tarot community, and the bulk of their content is tarot. And I'm not part of the tarot community. I'm an outsider of that community, as far as I'm concerned. So, well, as far as anybody's concerned, really. But I still want to, I'm trying to think of an example of somebody off the top of my head. Lisa, Supportive Tarot. A lot of her videos are tarot related. I'm still subscribed to her. There's several that I'm subscribed to, but mostly I don't really watch their content because it's so tarot heavy. I'll watch the stuff that's not necessarily tarot. Then there are people who I'm subscribed to who I watch more frequently, but not necessarily, again, every single video. Or I may start to watch a video and kind of get the gist of it and go off because I don't have enough time in my day to just watch videos all day long. And then there's a third group that I'm just like an avid watcher and I consume all of their content. We're real life people with real lives to live, and everybody can't be best friends. And to me, when I think of the pagan community as a whole here on YouTube, it's a very abstract kind of thing. It's a loose thing. And I definitely feel part of that. Now, you can break it down and get more entrenched and narrow it down. My channel is fairly small. Of course, there are smaller channels, but it's not a huge channel. And so it's very easy for me to keep up with my comments and what have you. I have seen things in the community that I would consider to be drama. I have witnessed ugliness, and honestly, I just ignore it. I just avoid it. I'm not interested in that at all. And that, I think that's the human condition. There are just some people who seek to be special or to look down on other people and be mean and nasty, and that's just going to happen no matter where you go. I think as a whole, our community has very little of that, honestly. This whole discussion about community, from what I understand, started in the tarot community. As I have stated, am not part of that community. And I had this conversation with Erica from Raw Spirit, how I would never even try to be part of that community, even though there's so many people, Erica's part of that community. I love Becca Night Owl. She is the sweetest thing. And I have commented on her channel, and we've talked back and forth, and I have watched some of her lives, though most of the time I'm not really able to. I really enjoy her as a person, and I don't feel like I would be shunned by her. I actually haven't met anyone in that community who has done anything or said anything that would specifically make me feel shunned or like I couldn't be part of that community. But I know that I am not a technical tarot reader at all. And I've actually come to the conclusion, I don't even call myself, I don't read tarot. I'm a card reader. I read cards, but I don't read tarot, even if they're tarot cards, because Anybody who knows anything about tarot knows how complicated that can be, and that there are specific meanings, and there's just a whole thing. And even if I use a tarot layout, which I do a lot of times when I read cards, for me, reading the cards is more akin to scrying than it is reading tarot. And it is a completely intuitive thing, or a psychological thing with regards to like the symbology of the cards or what have you. So for that reason, I have felt that I could not be part of the tarot community. And because I'm not as interested in all of the meaty bits of tarot, honestly, I just read cards. So that feeling of not being part and not being able to be part actually comes purely from within me. Nobody has ever done or said anything to make me feel like I couldn't be part of that community should I want to. I am the one that says, oh, what I do is not what they're doing, and they're not going to, I know there are people who genuinely would not accept that, who don't like the intuitive part. But in general, I think that most of them probably wouldn't care. Even if they did, they've never expressed to me. I've never watched anything, seen anything that would lead me to believe that. I automatically make that assumption because of my own, whatever they may be, my own thoughts, ideas, insecurities, what have you. I have one last point to make about community in general before I move on to my own specific. It's already 15 minutes. I'm sure I'll edit some of this down, but I haven't even gotten to my part of the video yet. So, no, 2 more points. Okay, 2 more points about community before I move on to my specific experiences with this. So, one being, a community does not build itself. What I mean is, if I'm standing on the outside, looking in at a community that I want to be part of, I have to do something. I have to make an effort. I can't expect everybody to just rush right over to me and throw their arms around me and just, pat my head and we love you, be part, whatever. I have to do things to engage the community so that I may be part of the community. Now, of course, that could happen. Everybody could just, I just show up and everybody welcomes me in. And in a lot of times in certain communities, and especially of a spiritual nature, that they are willing to do that. But I believe that to be a bit more difficult when we're talking about a virtual space. I have to work a little bit to really be active part of a community. I can't just sit back and be upset if everything doesn't just fall right into my lap. And of course, there's going to be different ways to do that. The easiest of which being like video responses or participating in tags and what have you, but also just genuinely trying to engage with people, maybe on their Facebook page, whatever, some way other than necessarily just through video. But of course, interacting in the comments section, things like that. Those are, to me, are the very basic steps. I also would like to, I watched Brittany's video, Palm Tree Bee Witchery, where she talked about this topic, did her response, and she said that the answer was love. And while I don't disagree with that, I would add that respect. I think if we could all just respect each other, that community could be a lot easier. Treat everyone as we want to be treated, that kind of thing. And finally, I said there was 2 more, there's 3. And finally, in submission, I have experienced almost nothing but good from this community. I love being part of this community. I feel part of the community in general, and I'm very happy to be here, and I hope that I personally have never made someone feel unwelcome, because I don't want to do that. I absolutely do not want to do that. So now, finally, my part of the video. So I'm a mystic. I consider my path to be shamanic. I practice witchcraft, but I am, did that sound like I said witchcraft? Witchcraft. But I am mystical. I am mystical. My path is completely mystical. And I have tons of books over here, which, half of them are my husband's, but, and I've read lots of things, and I've lightly looked at many things. But for the most part, when I do workings or ritual or whatever, like, it is because my intuition is telling me, and my guidance my guidance is telling me. It's not because somebody else said that's how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I find it can be really difficult sometimes in pockets of the community, just like I might have difficulty in the tarot community because I'm purely intuitive, sort of scrying and symbolic and psychological, rather than getting real deep into all of the layers that you can within tarot. I find it can be the same way in the witchcraft community. There are people who follow traditions, whether it's ones they were raised in, or, you know, whether it be Wiccan or Hoodoo or whatever. Ceremonial magic, just chaos magic. They're following some tradition and something that is established. And that doesn't work for me. And I don't have a problem with it. I think that's lovely. I don't think that one is better than the other or worse than the other. I think that they both have their advantages and disadvantages, just like anything. Like, for instance, there's so many times that I would like to just be able to look at a book and get an answer as to how to proceed in my practice, and I can't. And even like, I don't know how many times I've had tarot readings, read cards for myself, or someone else has read tarot for me, that I am told, no, stop looking outside yourself. It's all right here. It's really frustrating. It's beautiful, but it's frustrating. And I find, like, okay, this whole conversation sparked because there was a comment under one of my videos. And the person, I'm going to discuss it because it's public. It's there, it's under the video. I had made an oil, and the person took issue with that because apparently my oil, they felt like I was representing my oil as a hoodoo recipe, which I never said in the video. And I know that that's the only video of mine they ever watched, because if they had watched any of my other videos, they would know that that's not me at all. I have not actually studied hoodoo. I have old style conjure and the magical art of, crafting charm bags. Those are the two books that I personally own that touch hoodoo at all. I've read, it looks like a third of old style conjure, and I can't read anymore. It's just not for me. But for me, there's truths on every path. I'm not going to be a hoodoo practitioner. I'm really not drawn to that. And it's never my intention to mislead anyone or to act as if I am in some way. I actually went back and changed the name of the video so that it says not hoodoo beside it. But the comment was really snarky, and it got under my skin. Knowing this person doesn't know me and that it's really not about me, it still really hit me wrong. They accused me of being Wiccan, and it wasn't like an accusatory, nasty way. Not that there's nothing wrong with being Wiccan, but I'm not Wiccan. I follow no tradition, and that's the thing. Like, everything, like my oils, like, it's just what I'm being either guided or what I intuit I need to use in them. And then I call them whatever the hell I want to call them. That was the issue, the name that I called the oil. But I've not studied your path, your tradition, so I don't know. I said, this may happen again. I'm sorry if there was any confusion, but because my path is mystical and my workings are done through intuition and guidance, like, I may step on Hoodoo's toes again. Like, I don't know. Like, my oil, I don't think it has any ingredients that are in, I don't know. It's just because of what I named the oil. I'm sorry. I thought it was a cute name. But I have always been aware that this will be here. So, for example, I've talked about it before, the way that I collect my graveyard dirt. My mother died in 2011. Before she died, at some point, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was in a specific place, talking to a specific person who I recognized in the dream was a priestess of a specific tradition. I was speaking to her. She took me to a graveyard. And when I looked at her, like, what am I supposed to do now? Her response to me was, you've already done this. You know what you're doing. Go ahead. And I did. I collected the graveyard dirt. And when I woke up, I thought, oh, well, that's how you do that. Who cares? I'm not working with graveyard dirt. I have no intention of. Went on about my life. My mother died sometime in that year following her death. I was walking up to the house, and it was just before the new moon, and the little sliver of moon that was left was very low in the sky, and it was, blood orange color. And I immediately got the message, you need to do a new moon ritual and you need graveyard dirt to do it. And okay, so I went and I followed the procedure from the dream and collected the graveyard dirt. It's the way I've always collected graveyard dirt. Now, because of the context of the dream, I figured this might be part of a tradition, what I'm doing. I have no idea. I've not studied. I'm not looking for it. For years and years and years and years. From 2011 to now. Just a few months ago, I was talking with a friend who this came up, this whole topic, because of this comment and everything. And so I told them about the dream, how I collect graveyard dirt. And their response was, yes, that's exactly how it's done in a certain culture from a certain part of the world, in their tradition that I've never had any exposure to and isn't even the culture or tradition that I associated with the dream at all. Although a lot of those traditions bleed together, so I don't know if there's any crossover or not. I honestly don't know. It's a completely different part of the world that I have absolutely no exposure to at all. And even I was holding something in the dream and I've never understood why I was holding that, and they explained to me why I was holding that. I'm like, oh, okay. I know for a fact that there are people who would either think that I'm lying and that I've gone out and researched and found this method and took it for my own. I know that there are people who might believe me, but who would still feel that it was me encroaching on their culture or their tradition by using this method to collect graveyard dirt. I also know that there are probably even more people who wouldn't care because it's not affecting them in their daily life. I'm not making money off of it. I'm not hurting anyone. And this is something that was given to me directly from spirit. But this is another part of my path personally that's extremely frustrating. Like, it's given directly to me. I have no way of proving that. I just know. And like, for me in my own path, walking and doing what I do, that's great. It's great. It's fine. But interacting in community, it gets sticky. It's hard. And so there's always a part of me that is afraid, honestly. I have a fear because I know that there are people who are so quick to jump. This is why I got so upset and did the cultural appropriation and video. And honestly, I wish I hadn't done it when I was angry. I did not articulate myself very well. There are parts of it that could use some clarification if I hadn't have been so angry when I did it. But I'm not taking it down because I made it. And the heart of it is what I meant to say and what I feel. But it's why I get so upset, because I know when I started my journey, I was not exposed to an outer community other than people close by. And nobody close by had much context for what I was going through. They were witches. They were not on a shamanic mystical path. They were just fascinated and loving and accepting. But in this wider community, there are people in specific traditions on specific paths that hold their stuff very, very tightly to them, which is fine. But again, I know that I am walking my path with pure intentions, and that I am just doing what I am supposed to do, what I'm being led to do, what my heart's knows I am supposed to be doing, meant to do. And I know that there are people who would be offended or angered or judgmental. And had I not had that starting off in that sort of safe space before getting into this larger community, those people could have been so detrimental to me on my path. They could have made me doubt myself. They could have made me feel guilty about, my connection and the information and the guidance and the wisdom that I receive through it. And they could have greatly damaged me on my path. I'm so grateful that I was not exposed to the YouTube community at all. The greater, wider world community, not just YouTube, online at all. I was not exposed to any of that until like 3 years ago. So I get really angry for people I know. I know there are people out there who are just like me, and their paths are mystical, and they're just being given stuff. They're not trying to take from any. They're just absorbing what spirit is giving them, and that there are other people who quick to try to stomp them down for one reason or another, because, you know, they're the path police, and they get to tell people how to walk their paths and what that should look like, because there's a right and a wrong. And it's just, I don't know. Again, I don't think that everybody who belongs to a tradition is that way. I actually think the majority of people probably aren't that way. I hope. But for me, it makes it really difficult navigating the community. As a whole, I feel very welcome in the pagan community, but I am a little guarded. I'm guarded because, I mean, I'm very honest. I've always been honest with you guys that there are things like this in my path. I'm very honest about it. But yeah, I am guarded. I am always sort of on alert a little bit. And I always feel like I'm one step outside. So like, I'm looking in at the community and I interact and everyone is beautiful, but I know most people don't really get it. Having said that, nobody has ever done anything to make me feel that way. That is completely internal, just like with the tarot. I create that. And sure, I'm right. There are going to be people who will try to make me feel that way. But I seriously doubt it's a majority of the community. And I really feel like when I feel outside of, removed from the community, that's more about me. At the end of the day, this feeling originates from within me. And it's something that I need to look at. It's obviously part of my shadow, things that I need to work out and look at. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the case for everybody else. And I'm not going to say that there isn't instances where people are ostracized, or belittled or even bullied. But I do think that for the majority of us, probably whether or not we fit is more about us than anything else. And honestly, what are pagans in general if not the misfits? Like, magical misfits. That's why I say it, because we don't fit. And to expect each and every one, like all of us, to fit together with each other is ridiculous. It's not going to happen. So I don't know. I think in general, the community is beautiful. It's great. I love it. There are going to be positives and negatives in anything, and it's up to me to make the most out of any situation. So that's kind of how I look at this topic. But I do have feels. I do have, I can get quite upset about it, about my own personal mystical experience trying to be part of community. Basically, that's it. I just kind of wanted to touch on the topic that everybody's getting into and share my own personal experience of community here and what that looks like and my thoughts on it, really. So I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, much love and gratitude.